Hey guys, I know it's been a while since I made my last video, and that's mainly because I feel like the conservatives have done a pretty good job of covering the things that I would want to talk about. And I don't really feel the need to make a video that someone else has already made. That being said, I've been reading a lot of the newspaper from where I come from, where I went to school. And I went to school there for about 2 years to get my general education out of the way. Since it was a little bit cheaper than where I'm going now. And I feel like now I can kind of talk about it since I'm not going there anymore and I don't have to worry about repercussions. Because when I was going there, I definitely had my fair share of repercussions for stating my opinions. And I think I'm actually going to make a video about that next week. It's actually a really great story. It made it onto Channel 13 News. It was all over the paper. It was made into a really big deal. And it really backfired against the university because it made them look bad. I actually got more support from what I was doing. I actually did it, and they didn't know who was doing it. They had a full-out investigation trying to find me. They went to the state, I think it was either the city or the state prosecutor, trying to get their help with it. And they wouldn't help them because they're like, well, there was really no crime committed, so we can't really do anything about it. So it was really, that just proved even more that it's the university trying to censor free speech. But I'll get into that next week. It makes a really great story. I'll show you the news footage from Channel 13. I'll try to give you guys some links and talk about what they said in the paper. But for now, I just like to talk about what I read. And this is just what I read tonight because it's been fairly consistent. Like, it's consistently liberal what I read in the paper. And that's not really surprising because that's just what I was used to while I was at the university. And it's not really surprising, but it just became something that no one really covers because it's more of a local thing. It's not really a big city. It's in Kansas, so you know how that goes. So I'd like to cover this kind of thing because it doesn't just apply to my university either. It's something that kind of branches into all aspects of every single university. It's kind of infected, and it's also really infected society as we know it. Because you can also look at this from a business standpoint once you read it, what's going on, because the businesses do the same thing. Campuses all across the United States are doing this. So it doesn't just apply to my university, but I'm going to use this as an example because no one else is really going to cover something like this since it's local. Anyway, and keep in mind that this is not some of the most extreme stuff. This is actually fairly mild compared to what I normally read in our paper. Today just happened to be the day that I decided, you know what, I'm going to get back into making these videos. So the title of this was on the front page of the paper. It says, ESU diversifies student faculty members. The number of students and faculty at Emporia State that belong to minority groups has increased in the last year, according to the demographics data book released by ESU each fall semester. Students had a 6.4% increase and faculty increased by 1.1%. Now, I want you to keep this in mind because it's talking about minority groups here. That's the important takeaway. It's trying to brag about how they've now increased the minority groups. And what this really just comes down to, and they'll actually say it later on in this article, what minority groups really mean. What they really mean by this is anyone who's not white. And that's just the basis of race. It will also talk about gender, and it doesn't say this specifically like it does with the ethnic part of it, but what they're talking about gender minorities, they're talking about anyone who's not a man, which is actually kind of funny because there's actually more women in the world than there are men, so technically men are the minority, but they like to say that women are discriminated against, so that's what they're going to go with. So it's important to realize what they're talking about with minorities. Ethnically, they're talking about anyone who's not white. And in regards to gender, or what the real word should be is sex, since there's only two sexes, there's a million fake genders, but what they really mean is anyone who's not white and anyone who's not a man. So that's what they really mean by minorities, and then they'll start, that also works in with diversity. That's what they really mean is anyone who's not white and anyone who is not a man. So far so good. They're being, at least they're being honest. They're not saying anything really controversial at this point. Now this is where it does. This is where it becomes fairly discriminatory. This past spring, we added a fifth major goal to the university strategic plan, and that goal 5, not really sure what that means, but that goal 5 which wasn't there originally, is to make ESU a model for diversity, equity, and inclusion, said Provost David Cordell. Now, this is what's important, because during my time at ESU, the major thing I learned, which should have been academics, was diversity, equity, and inclusion. That was their huge model. This is actually what they had up on all these posters, while they were also talking about having a speaker for white privilege, taking my tuition money to pay for a guy to diss white people. But what they really mean, this was their major platform while I was there. It was really ridiculous. In every class, we wound up talking about this, and it was so unnecessary. And here's what they really mean by diversity, equity, inclusion. Do they really mean that they will include every race and every gender? No. They don't include white people, because what they want is diversity, quote unquote, which means anyone who's not white. It's a key to remember that. They'll say it in their own words. They'll actually say that in their own words in this article, that they mean anyone who's not white. But that's what they really mean. And they don't want to include opposing ideas. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had an investigation for me during my time there because of what I said. And what I said wasn't controversial. I posted documented facts, and they went after me because they didn't like them. So they're not including diverse opinions and diverse dialogue. No, they're talking about including anyone who's not white, and anyone who's not male, and anyone who agrees with them. But other than that, that's what they mean. In the past 5 years, the percentage of minority students has increased by approximately 9.3 and faculty by 7.3. So they're bragging about how they have less white people and more people of other races. Congratulations. As of fall 2016 semester, there were 50 faculty members that were part of an ethnic group other than white. That right there is the key. What they're talking about with diversity is anyone other than white. That's what they mean, because they're a bunch of little racists. They don't like white people, because that's what diversity means to them, and that's their goal, is having fewer white people and more of other races. So we'll move on, and we'll talk about this. Now, here's what's really important here. This is where, you know, it's fine that they talk about how diverse they are, that they're bragging about that. It makes them sound like a bunch of racists, but it's not necessarily anything immoral at this point. This is where it becomes immoral. This is where I have a problem. When a faculty position becomes available, the university goes through a specific hiring process that includes steps to diversify the staff. Now, keep in mind, their definition of diversity is no white people or less white people. That's what they really want, and that's what they mean. So, in other words, let me rephrase what they're actually saying. Their hiring process is based upon race. They're specifically hiring people that are not white because they're not white. I will read it, and I will replace their word with their definition. So I don't like to use their word diversity, because that's not really what they mean. They mean less white people. So let's go ahead and reword this. When a faculty position becomes available, the university goes through a specific hiring process that includes steps to eliminate the number of white people in our staff and incorporate members that are not white. That's what they really mean. The department will ask permission to do a search. If they're given that approval, they'll appoint a search committee, usually 4 or 5 faculty members. Okay. After posting the announcement, receiving and narrowing down the applications based on race, 3 finalists for the position will be brought onto campus. Hopefully they're not white people, because, you know, that would suck. Following the visits, the search committee will send a candidate recommendation to Cordell, who approves the candidates, as long as they're not white. We view filling vacant positions as an opportunity to diversify the faculty, Cordell said. We want the faculty and staff and the student body to be more diverse than it is today. So let me rephrase that by what they actually mean, because we know diversity just means less white people. We view the filling vacant positions as an opportunity to reduce the number of white people in the faculty. We want the faculty and the staff and student body to have fewer white people than they do today. That's what they're really saying. And this is where it's discriminatory and no longer acceptable. And this is they're admitting this, trying to brag about how they dislike white people, and how they're trying to get rid of the white people in their faculty. And they're bragging about it. They're putting it in the Gazette. I mean, I can't believe that people are overlooking this kind of thing. It's ridiculous. According to Cordell, they look into various types of diversity, such as ethnic and gender. This is what I was talking about. It's not enough to get rid of white people. We also need to get rid of the males. They don't necessarily state it like as bluntly as they do with ethnic, as the ethnic definition, because they straight up defined it as anyone who's not white with the ethnic. They don't necessarily say that they're trying to get rid of males, but that's what they mean. You can be sure of that. And the other thing about this, going to ESU, I can't remember the exact statistic, but it was the opposite of a sausage fest. It was close to 80% female. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It was a teaching college, and I mean, there you go. They're going to, that's why I didn't stay there. That's why I went to another university, because I wanted my gen eds, and then I wanted a degree that was actually going to pay me something. Teachers don't make a whole lot, and that just adds to the wage gap that feminists complain about, because they're all going to become teachers. And I mean, that's cool. That's great. Become a teacher, but then don't complain to me that you're not making the same salary that someone like me who's going into, you know, a high-paying career. I mean, that's just part of it. I think I'll make a wage gap video later. That way I don't have to go into why the wage crap is bull crap today. That's just another trail, another way of getting off topic. But here they're straight up admitting that they're hiring people based on their race and sex, which is supposed to be illegal unless you're doing it to white people and males. Then it's not a problem. What we do in the process is of the search. I don't know who wrote this, but they were clearly a high hippie when they wrote this. I mean, what do you expect? They're liberals, but this doesn't make sense. Is try to conduct the search in a way that we have a better chance of finding qualified, diverse applicants. Basically, we do it in a way where we can get rid of the white people and get black people in here, or anyone who's not white. Each committee member is expected to contact professional acquaintances and invite them to apply, nominate qualified and diverse candidates. Diverse candidates meaning anyone who's not white and male, or male, and or male. I'm sure if they had a black man, it would be okay, but if they had a black woman, that would be even better. We have an expectation that every search committee, every faculty position, will take intentional steps at the beginning of the process to attract diverse applicants to the position. Intentional steps to make sure that less white people are going to be available to take this position. That's what they're saying. The steps to diversify the university go beyond that of hiring faculty, and the university has not yet reached the model status that is outlined in the 2015-2025 strategic plan, according to Cordell. It's not enough that they're actively discriminating against white people and actively discriminating against males. No. According to them, they haven't reached the model. They still have too many white people on campus. They have too many men and too many white people on campus. And this is the problem, because as you'll soon find out, when you're hiring only these people, you get people like this who become the editors of the school newspaper. So on our school newspaper, we have an article titled "Dear All Men," written by Sarah Spoon, and her picture is in the article, so you can get a good feel of what she looks. I mean, most feminists are actually probably uglier than this. I'd rate her probably a 4. She's overweight, clearly, and that smile is fake, because you'll later read in this article how absolutely crazy this girl is. And I am not exaggerating. Her paranoia is probably on the same level of someone who's schizophrenic, if not worse. This is not an exaggeration. You need to read this article. And if any of you guys know Sarah Spoon at the university, make sure you're not behind her. I address this opinion piece to all those of the male sex. Stop following us. Alright, first off, we already have a problem here. This person is trying to address all men, group us all in the same category. Now, let's flip the switch here for a second, and let's turn it around. What if I wrote a piece saying, "Dear all women," stop doing fill in the blank here. The feminists complain about this all the time. Here, they always say, "Oh, not all women." And, for example, when people say most women are inferior physically to men, that's a generalization, but it's an accurate one. It's accurate, it is scientifically accurate to state that most men are stronger than women physically. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way we're built. If you guys need proof, leave something in the comment box, and I will be happy to prove it to you. I have plenty of articles doing that. I probably should have already done it in an article by now, but haven't had a chance. But it's been scientifically proven. There are some things that men are better at than women. biologically. There are some things that women are better than men at. For example, childcare, and oh boy, the feminists are going to go mad over this one, but yes, women are actually better at taking care of children than men are. And that's a good thing. But anyway, her first piece contradicts that of which feminists have complained about for years. She's grouping all men in the same category. And then she says, stop following us. And this is important. Remember when I said, if you know this girl, don't walk behind her, don't be anywhere in the general vicinity? She's crazy, and I'll tell you why. I have heard many stories over the years, exclusively from females, ain't that surprising, about times that men followed them into various places, ranging from the stereotypical at-night street scene to the most bizarre and strange funeral scene. Are you kidding me? She's under the impression that men are stalking women at funerals. Now, first off, she's getting these stories from other women without being able to verify them at all. Probably her feminist friends. Now, who in their right mind is going to follow a girl with intentions? I assume she's talking about intentions to like pick them up or something, you know, hook up or something. But who in their right mind follows a woman to a funeral? Okay, this just shows you how crazy she is. Did it ever cross this woman's mind that possibly, this man is going to the funeral to pay his respects and to mourn the loss of someone he cared about? Same as her. Probably not same as her because she doesn't care about anyone but herself, which is outlined in this article as she talks about how she's been stalked because there are men in the same general vicinity and everything needs to be about her. But can you imagine how crazy this lady is? Isn't it? Did it even cross her mind that it's possible? Not even likely. I'd say it's likely, but it hasn't even crossed her mind that it's possible that these men were going to a funeral. And this isn't even her. She's hearing this from someone else. And in the next part, she doesn't even think it's possible. You can read that. It's more shocking, however, the number of times I've heard men who didn't even know these other men, but knew the women who were telling the stories, object for and defend these anonymous men. Well, lady, you don't know the men who were stalking, quote-unquote stalking, because they weren't, stalking these women. You don't know these men, and you're judging them. And this is another problem that feminists have, especially when it comes to rape. They like to say, oh, well, you always have to take the woman's side. She doesn't have to provide any evidence. If she says she was raped, you have to believe her. And I'm not putting words in their mouth. They actually say this. And rape seems to be the only crime, and this is actually going on in our legal system. You can look at cases like Mattress Girl, John Doe. There are several cases where women lied about being raped, and men were prosecuted and punished for it. And then it's later found out that these women were lying. Nothing bad happens to the women, but these men have been punished, and they never get any kind of repercussion. And these men never get vindicated. There was, I can't remember the story, but there was a man who killed himself. It may have been the Mattress Girl story, but there was a man, or he didn't kill himself, but this man died of a heart attack, or he died of some sort of stress-related cause because of the stress that this put on him about being punished for something he didn't ever. It ruined his life. He lost his job. He went to jail. He lost his friends, his family, everything. And it wound up during his lifetime proving that he was right, but he wound up dying of a stress-related condition because of all the stress that it put on him before he could sue this girl. So she got away scot-free. And honestly, I feel like if a man is falsely accused of rape, spends the time, or any crime, spends the time because of some sort of, except it probably wouldn't happen. That's the other thing. It probably wouldn't even happen for another crime, because most crimes, you have to have evidence supporting your claim, and it's innocent till proven guilty with everything except for rape. I know this has been a tangent, but this is the same mentality that it happens with rape, and that's why these men are suffering because of it. So she's going on a limb here, and she's saying every single man has to believe every single woman who says she was followed. Okay, and she doesn't have any more idea than these people, except these people are using common sense and she's not. But she's saying, how dare these men even think that there's a possibility that these other men are innocent. How dare they think that a man may have been going to a funeral to pay their respects. No, he was following and stalking a woman, and he had intent to do something bad. And we'll see what that is, what she thinks they're going to do later in this article. But she's attacking these men for quote-unquote defending these anonymous men. Is it possible that these women are being crazy and maybe these men are not stalking them? But anyway, quote, "Yeah, but he probably didn't even mean to follow you," they'll say. That sounds like something a logical person would say. It was probably just an accident. And this I'll disagree with. I don't think it was an accident. An accident is, oops, I bumped into you and you spilled your coffee on yourself. That was an accident. This is a coincidence. You happen to be in the same place at the same time. But no. For her, that's not good enough. How dare they be in the same place in the same time? But to that, I disagree. Of course you do. Sometimes intent is less important than impact. It doesn't matter that he was just going to that funeral to pay his respects to his dead mother. He dared to be in the same place at the same time as a woman, and she may have felt in danger. She may have felt like you were following her. It doesn't matter what you intended. It doesn't matter if he was even following you at all. What matters is that you felt like he was. That is crazy. That is literal madness. This woman is insane. She is saying that these people are guilty of things just because a woman feels like they are. And this is one of those times. Men need to be aware of the fact that when they follow women, even accidentally, it can be incredibly scary. This is what I'm talking about, because they feel scared. Now men are doing something wrong. This is ridiculous. And this is what you guys have to realize. I'm not reading some fringe feminist. This is like straight up in our newspaper, and nobody's saying anything about it. No one's saying that this person is crazy. They're reading it and they're like, you know what? Maybe if I'm behind a woman, I'm doing something wrong. It's ridiculous. Although this has happened to me more than once, oh, there we go, it's all about her. I'll recall a recent event in which I was driving to Garden City to cover a news story for the Bulletin. Anyway, she goes and she talks about how she went there and she went to get a tank of gas. I won't read that part, it's unimportant. Here's what's important. During one of my stops, a man around the age of 45 followed me from my car to the women's bathroom. First off, as you read further along, he did not follow her to the bathroom. By the end, he was less than 6 inches from my back. For those of you who can't math, 6 inches is half a foot. So he was probably walking in behind her from the store. If you hold the door open for someone, you're less than 6 inches away from them. So this is crazy. This is madness. He was less than 6 inches from my back, and I could feel him staring at me. I could feel it. I steeled myself, ran the last 10 feet into the bathroom, slammed the door behind me, shaking, terrified, and on the verge of tears. This woman should see a psychologist. She is exhibiting more symptoms of paranoia than someone with schizophrenia, because first off, this man did not follow her to the bathroom, as you'll read later on. But just because this man was in her general vicinity, she sprinted to the bathroom, which proves to you that he didn't follow her to the bathroom, because she had to sprint. She was 10 feet away from the bathroom, so she probably literally walked in the door, noticed that he was close to her, and sprinted straight to the bathroom. And she's shaking and terrified and about to cry because a man was even close to her. First off, how does this woman function? Because like I said, I went to ESU. This is where she's apparently going to school because she's writing for their Gazette. But how does she function? Because I know for a fact, being from ESU, that you're going to be in the hallways, like anytime in between class, everyone's going to a different building. And so everyone winds up being about shoulder to shoulder. Everyone is compact together, and there has to be men in that crowd. I know it's like 80% women, but I know for a fact, at least one day, if not every day, there's a man less than 6 inches away from her. How does she function in this? Because if this were her standard, she could not find her teachers would set her off and trigger her into the verge of tears because she can't even be 6 inches away from them without being terrified. Let's go back, because in this next sentence she says, while he didn't follow me into the bathroom and I didn't see him again, I was left shaken. So he didn't follow her into the bathroom. He probably wasn't following her. He never followed her to the bathroom because, keep in mind, she sprinted 10 feet to the bathroom. 10 feet is probably enough to go from the door to the bathroom. So she probably literally walked in the door, noticed that there was a man in her general vicinity, and sprinted to the bathroom where she could throw this tantrum. And so he didn't follow her to the bathroom. That was a lie. Moving on, what was less shocking, there were knowing glances and understanding nods I received from other women in the bathroom. I didn't even have to tell them. They just knew. First off, I call bull. They would probably be looking at her and just be like, what is wrong with this woman? Or if she was actually throwing this fit and in tears, they'd probably ask her what was wrong. They're not just going to know that a man happened to be about 6 inches away from her. No one just knows that. That's a lie. Secondly, I don't believe that they reacted like this to begin with. But secondly, if they did, then these people are just as crazy. Because the fact that someone's near you does not warrant this kind of behavior. It doesn't warrant this kind of reaction. You're all, if these people were actually acting like this, they were all crazy. But I don't believe that. I don't believe most women are this crazy. But whether he intended to follow me or not, he did, which he didn't. And the results were enough to put me on the edge the rest of the night. So now she's demonstrating qualities of PTSD, because now she's flipping out the whole night because a man was 6 inches away from her, less than 6 inches away from her. How does she function? Because every day I know she's 6 inches away from women because I've been to that school. This is crazy. This being 6 inches away from a man ruined her entire day. As women, we are taught never to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. And if we do allow ourselves to be vulnerable, that we will be attacked. You're the one teaching people to do this. You're the one teaching people that men are following you, they're out to get you. This is your fault. You're the one doing this. You're scaring people into being afraid at all times. And it's just ridiculous. We are taught that if we are stupid enough to let our guard down, then it is our fault for being vulnerable and we should have been smarter. I assume she's referring to rape victims. And I just have to say that this is the most pathetic thing I've heard about. It's like they're talking about when people say, well, you shouldn't have been dressed like that or something. Let me tell you something. If I park my car in the middle of a bad neighborhood and I just park it there, I leave the keys in it, and I leave the door open and expect it to be there the next day, I'm a moron if I do that. You're a moron if you go into a neighborhood that you know is bad, dressed in a short skirt in the middle of winter, because that just shows them that you're trying to show yourself off. You go into a bad neighborhood by yourself like that, you better know better, because you're a moron if you don't. It's the same thing as leaving your car open and unlocked in that neighborhood. I'm not saying that these people are justified for stealing the car. I'm not saying that you deserve to have your car stolen. I'm not saying these people are justified rapists, and I'm not saying you deserve to be raped, but you're an idiot if you go into that kind of situation willingly and knowingly. We have been quoted statistic after statistic that the person most likely to hurt you is a close male friend or relative. And if you have a boyfriend, fiance, or husband, chances are they will be the ones to kill you. What the heck are you talking about? First of all, your whole thing is about strangers, and you need to be concerned about these strangers because they're going to hurt you. First off, you're teaching people that women are these weak, fragile creatures, and every stranger is out to get them. You're making every man out to be a rapist or a murderer, and that's not even going along with this point. You're saying that the people closest to you are the ones who are going to hurt you. So first off, you're contradicting yourself. Secondly, what are you trying to tell women? That they should have no men in their life? That every man is going to hurt them if they get close to them? You're probably ruining... Listen to this. Friend, relative, boyfriend, fiance, or husband. Someone's husband, they're just going to kill you. Your boyfriend, they're just going to kill you. If you have a close male friend, they're just going to kill you. Your relative, don't you dare have a dad, don't you dare have a brother, they're going to kill you. You are isolating these women. You're making their lives miserable. You're making them fear every man in their life, let alone the stranger. Forget the strangers. You're making them afraid of the people close to them. You're hurting their relationships. This is what feminism does. It ruins people. This is probably what someone told you, and now if a man is 6 inches away from you, you go into a panic mode and you are on the verge of crying. This is ridiculous. But what are men taught? Well, I assume you're asking, are they taught to rape people? No. Actually, our society, I know everyone loves to say we're a rape culture, but our culture couldn't be any further from it, because what happens to rapists? They go to jail. Now, if someone comes up to another man and says, "Oh, bro, I just raped that chick," what is the guy going to say? He's going to go, "Oh, bro, good job." No. He's going to be, first off, he's going to be astonished. He's like, "What did you just say?" Second off, he's going to either be enraged to the point of physically harming this person, or he's going to go contact the police and have this person put in jail. Our society could not be the furthest thing from a rape culture. It could not be any further. It is the furthest thing from a rape culture. The next thing says, "I have been taught to carry mace, to have 911 pre-dialed, and never to walk alone." Good. It's not just because you're a woman, though. Everyone's taught that as a kid. I assume you were taught this as a kid. You don't let your kids walk alone. You make sure that they're safe. And I would encourage everyone, not just women, to carry some sort of protection. If you're legally allowed to carry a gun, carry a gun. If you can, carry mace. If you can take martial arts, take it. It's just a good habit. It's not just for women, it's for anyone. Anyone can hurt you, and I'm not trying to scare you like this woman, but I'm just saying anyone can hurt you. It's probably a good idea to have some way to defend yourself. Yeah, have 911 pre-dialed. Good. It is a good habit for anyone. But my brothers, I have never heard a single person tell them to watch the way they act. Again, I call bull. Unless you have crappy parents, you are going to tell your kid how to act. That is the whole point of parenting. I don't know of any parent who doesn't tell their kids how to act. Or to make sure they don't come across like they're following someone. So first off, she's saying this only applies to men. We need to teach every young boy to make it look like he's not following someone. I don't know what on earth she's trying to do. She's trying to brainwash little boys. I don't know what this is, but it's unnecessary. It's really unnecessary. Anyone can look like you're following someone if you're going in the same direction as them. It's not gender specific. And you don't need to teach people not to do that. Because most people aren't paranoid like you. Most people are like, they're kind of walking in the same direction. Maybe if I take a left turn, looks like he wasn't following me. That's how the average person reacts to this. They don't throw a temper tantrum and have their entire night filled with crying and shivering and trembling and just acting like a complete lunatic if they're in the general vicinity of someone else. So it is to the men that I write. Stop following us. Be aware of your actions. We are not glass dolls to be handled with kid gloves. Clearly, because being in the general vicinity of a man, you break down and start panicking. So yeah, clearly you're not a glass doll, right? No, I agree though. You shouldn't be handled with kid gloves. You are a glass doll, and that needs to be fixed. You need to be handled like an adult, and someone needs to sit you down and say, "Look, you are overreacting. This is not how you behave. You clearly either need psychological help because you're not acting like a person, or you need to just look at your behavior and correct it." You're right. You do not need to be handled with kid gloves. But we are also not your property to which you can do anything. First off, this is a strong man. No one's suggesting that women are your property. At the same time, we have the right to walk in your general vicinity. We can walk wherever we want. If we happen to be walking in your general direction, you know what? That's fine. We can do that. And there's nothing you can do to stop us because we have that right. And I'm going to take that one step further. Even if you weren't a complete lunatic and people were following you to try to ask you out or to pick you up or something, take it as a compliment. And if you don't want that compliment, fine. But there's nothing you can say that makes that wrong. We have every right. If I want to follow a girl to her house and be like, "Hey, can I get those digits or something?" You know what? I have every right to do that. Do I have a right to follow her to her house? No. Do I have a right to kidnap her? No. But I do have a right to follow someone. It doesn't matter. It may be creepy. Probably is creepy, but I have a right to do that. And I don't think these men were doing that, but even if they were, they have every right to. So Spoon is the opinion editor. I know how she got this job. It's because of the whole diversity staff, going back to what started this whole video, because they're specifically hiring people who aren't men. So that's how she got this job. And she got this job so that she could go around scaring women, making all men look like rapists, and being paranoid and freaking out if someone walks in her general area, specifically someone who is a man. So it's just ridiculous. And I want to point out again, this is not just my college. This is all colleges where people are this crazy. And it started to seep into the fabrics of our culture, and we have a lot more women who are starting to go along with this kind of stuff. I'd still say it's a minority, but can't really go anywhere without encountering people like this anymore. And I'd say it's deeply disappointing. And I'm really disappointed to see our culture gravitating toward this and, you know, gratifying the people who believe this kind of nonsense. You don't have to pay this woman to do this. Why are you giving her a platform to spout craziness? Is there nothing better to talk about? I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. This woman is clearly crazy, and I don't know why you're encouraging this. But anyway, this is what it's become. Anyway, guys, if you like this video, go ahead and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Next week, I think I'll go ahead and do that video talking about what happened that got me into the news. It wasn't me. It was anonymous because they didn't know who I was. They were trying to investigate it, but it was through my actions that I got into the news, got in their newspapers. I actually feel partially responsible for them further increasing their diversity stuff. It was a big goal. It was a huge goal, and it was a whole part of their program. They were pouring tons of money into this diversity crap when I was going there. But after I did what I did, every time they have one of these diversity talks, I'll even pull up an article about it next time, they mention my event, and it is so hilarious. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and be looking forward to that video next week. You guys are going to love it.